My name is Rosemary. 1 year has passed since I left that house, the place that used to be the center of my world, but now it's just a desolate shell. As I walked past it the other day, the shutters were faded, and a fourth sale sign tilted in the winter wind. It was eerily quiet, no signs of life. I stood across the street, sipping my coffee, wrapped in my coat against the cold. I expected a wave of regret or sadness, but all I felt was a calm detachment, as if I were watching someone else's story. Let me take you back to how it all started. I grew up in a family where I was the responsible one from a young age. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were quite the opposite. My father was a laid-back man who spent most of his time fishing or watching TV, never really taking on the responsibilities of a family. My mother was a dramatic woman, always creating a fuss over small things and expecting me to fix everything. I have 2 siblings. My brother Ethan is 28 years old. He's always been a bit of a dreamer, but in a lazy way. He's tried several business ideas, but none of them ever took off, and he always ended up asking me for money. My sister, Lily, is 26. She's a party girl, constantly getting into trouble with drugs and alcohol. I was 12 when I first started handling the family finances. My mother was too busy with her social life and couldn't be bothered with the bills. So, she handed me the checkbook and said, "You're smart, figure it out." And I did. While Lily was out partying and wearing out my clothes, I was at the kitchen table, balancing the household budget. By the time I was 16, I had a part-time job at a local bookstore. I worked after school and on weekends, and my paychecks went straight into the family's needs. No one ever asked where the money came from, they just expected me to take care of things. When I turned 18, I got a second job at a coffee shop to earn more. I went to college, but I commuted because I couldn't afford to live on campus. I slept only a few hours a night, juggling my studies, work, and family responsibilities. When Lily failed her freshman year, I used my savings to pay for her to retake the courses. She always needed second chances, and I always gave them to her. At 23, I landed my first real job as a marketing assistant at a mid-sized firm. The hours were long, and the pay was low, but I worked hard for every promotion and raise. Meanwhile, Ethan got into debt with his failed business ventures, and my parents used my savings to bail him out without even asking me. At 32, I finally bought my own house. It was a modest 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood. I had worked for 15 years to save up for it, with no co-signer and no help from anyone. For the first time, I had a place that was truly mine, a front door that locked behind me without any guilt. But my peace didn't last long. Within weeks, Lily was between places and moved into my guest room. My mother started referring to my house as Lily's place, as if it were a hotel. My father joked, "You've got the space, why not?" Every time they came over, it cost me time, money, and my peace of mind. They would take my groceries, use my towels, and even drink the wine I was saving. I became their bank, their backup plan. Every time they had a problem, they expected me to solve it. Car problems? I'd pay for the repairs. Rent shortfall? I'd cover it. Lily's 4th rehab attempt? They wanted me to sell my house to pay for it. They didn't care about my life, they just saw me as a resource. One day, I noticed the water bill had gone up. Then the power bill. There were groceries in the fridge that I hadn't bought, and toiletries I didn't use. My gas tank was always empty, even though I worked remotely. I started keeping track of the expenses on paper, and the numbers just didn't add up. Lily had been living in my guest room for 3 months. She didn't pay rent, didn't contribute to the food, and spent her days sleeping or scrolling through her phone. Every week, she had a new excuse for why she needed money. My car got towed, I lost my job, I'll pay you back next week. But the money never came back. One night, I came home early from a meeting. As I walked past Lily's room, I heard my mother's voice. "She'll fold. She always does, she said in a low, sharp tone. Then Ethan's laughter. She's so predictable. One guilt trip, and she'll sign the check. They didn't know I was home, and they didn't know I was listening. That was the moment I realized they were taking advantage of me. It wasn't just about Lily anymore, it was all of them circling around the stability I had built. They saw my house as a vault, and they were counting on me to keep giving in. I didn't confront them right away. Instead, I made a quiet decision. I started researching property law, asset protection, and identity shielding. I read late into the night for weeks, cross-checking every piece of information. I knew I had to sever all ties. I called my HR rep at work and gave my notice, using my 6 weeks of vacation time. To them, it looked like I was still employed, but I was already planning my escape. I moved my house into a private trust, so on paper, I no longer owned it. I rerouted my paychecks, closed shared accounts, and opened new ones under a business entity. I changed my driver's license to a P.O. box in a state I didn't live in. I encrypted all my data, backed up my important files, and scrubbed my devices. I set up dual authentication on all my accounts. By day, I acted normal. I let Lily steal my shampoo, let Ethan borrow my car, and listened to my mother lecture me about being selfish. I made them feel like they had one. One night, the air smelled like rain, that fresh, almost electric quiet before a storm. I packed a single suitcase, took my passport, birth certificate, and a small envelope of savings that no one knew about. I wiped my laptop clean, deactivated all my cards, and rerouted my mail to a P.O. box. I took down all the photos of me in the house and cleared every trace of myself. Before I left, I placed a single key on the kitchen counter. It wasn't a peace offering, it was the key to their downfall. I texted Lily, gone for the weekend. Don't trash the place, and walked out the front door without looking back. It took them 2 days to notice I was gone. On the third day, Lily tried to throw a party at my house. But the Wi-Fi was off, the power was disconnected, and the fridge was empty. She called my mother, who called Ethan. When Ethan tried to use his spare key, it didn't work because the locks had been changed legally by the trust. They tried everything to find me. My mother called the city, claiming I was missing, but they were told I had filed an official relocation notice. Lily contacted my old HR rep and learned that I had quit a month ago. Ethan called a friend at the bank, but my accounts were empty and legally dissolved. Then, the letters arrived. I sent each of them a certified letter, detailing all the money I had spent on them over the years. To my mother, I listed every dental bill, every late car payment, and every rehab deposit I had made. To Ethan, I included screenshots of his texts asking for money while on vacation. To Lily, I had a list of all her missed job interviews, fake excuses, and the electronics she had sold. I also enclosed a voided check from the college fund they had guilt me into contributing to. After that, things started to fall apart for them. Ethan lost a business contract when his client found out about his financial stunts. My mother stopped going to church because she couldn't answer the questions. Lily moved in with some guy across town and tried to tell people I had abandoned the family, but it didn't work when she had an itemized receipt from me. The family started to fight among themselves. Ethan accused Lily of stealing from my mother, and Lily fired back that Ethan was a lazy freeloader. My mother said, "Your sister left because she was tired of carrying us." That was the start of the real fight. Ethan drove to my mother's house and pounded on the door, but she wouldn't let him in. A few days later, my mother showed up at Lily's apartment drunk and crying, and Lily locked her out. I watched all of this from a distance, in my new life in a different state. I rented a small apartment with southern light that warmed the floors in the morning. I took walks without having to tell anyone where I was. I bought groceries for myself and cleaned up after just me. It was a new beginning. I got a job as a senior operations manager at a company where no one knew my last name. For the first time, my life was truly mine. After the initial adrenaline wore off, I started therapy. My therapist helped me realize that being needed wasn't the same as being loved, and that I wasn't cruel for leaving, I was being kind to myself. I started writing about my experience. I wrote essays, short stories, and anonymous blog posts about women who leave toxic families and rebuild their lives. I received comments from other women who had similar experiences. We formed a private group, a digital circle where we talked about finding peace. One day, a young woman messaged me. She was 24, working 3 jobs, and being told she was selfish for wanting her own apartment. She asked, "How do you stop being their daughter?" I replied, "You don't stop loving them. You stop letting them write your story." It took me a long time to stop checking my inbox for their names and to stop imagining fake reunions. But I finally realized that my healing didn't depend on them changing. It was born the day I decided to change my own life. Now, when people ask about my family, I say, I was raised by people I had to unraise myself from. And I say it without shame because I'm free. I'm not the person who believed love had to hurt. I'm not the girl who gave and gave without getting anything in return. I'm someone they never planned for, and I'm okay with that.